This is Professor Homa. We're going to continue working on the flag exercise, and we're going to be working on creating the stars that are going to show up above the blue rectangle. So far we did the stripes and the blue rectangle, and on our layer palette we have one more layer for stars. And what we're going to review is creating the stars, making perfect stars that are straight, and we're also going to align the stars like we did with the stripes, and we're also going to group the stars and then align those groups of stars. So the first thing we're going to do is, on our stars palette, is we're going to create a star, and we're going to go over and use the star tool, which mine is on top, but it may be underneath the other polygon creation tools like the rectangle and ellipse and polygon. What I'm not going to do is click and create a star. You can see that when I click and create a star, it gives me radius 1 and radius 2, which I find very confusing to try and visualize what a star is going to look like by using numeric values. I prefer some kind of visual feedback, which I don't get from this dialog box. So what I'm going to do from Illustrator, and what they've been doing for years, is you can actually click and drag. I'm going to click and drag a star. You can see when I start to drag it, it's going in different directions. It's spinning around, and the arms aren't very straight. Now, other things I could do while I'm dragging, I can actually add points to the star, or I could hit the down arrow on my keyboard, and I actually want 5 points. But what keys I am going to add are the Shift key, which will make it straight, perpendicular, facing me, so that the tip is on the top. And then if I hold the Option key, so I'm just hitting the Option key right now, it's straightening out those shoulders, or it's making all the lines kind of connect with each other. So by holding Shift, it keeps it straight and keeps it from spinning. And by holding Option, it straightens out the shoulders. And I'm going to make one star, and I'll make it a little bit smaller. And I'll make sure, again, I leave go of my mouse first, rather than leaving go of any of the other modifier keys that I'm holding down. So I leave go of my mouse, and there's my star. Now I'm done with the star tool. I'm going to use my selection tool and select it. And I'm going to go over to my width and height in my control palette, and I'm going to turn it down to 0.28. That's what we're supposed to make it in our exercise specs. So I'm going to make it 0.28 by 0.28. I'll numerically do that. And there's my star. That's 0.28, a little more than a quarter inch. And I'm going to put one star up here in the corner. And I'm going to click off. And now I'm going to duplicate stars. Now for the start, we're going to need obviously 50 stars, and we're going to need 9 rows. If we had 9 rows of 6, it would make 54 stars, but each row in between is only going to be 5 stars. So we're going to have 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, and so on, so that we end up with 50. We end up with 5 rows of 6, and then 4 rows of 5. 20 and 30 is 50 stars. So we're going to start with our row of 6 stars, and I'm going to use my drag copy method by holding down Option, dragging a star, and then leaving go of my mouse. And I'll do that so that I have 6 stars going across. And once I have 6, I'll drag my right star in kind of a position to where I think it would be with a normal margin on the blue background. So these 6 stars are kind of lined up here. They're misaligned. I'll scroll down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is align these the same way I align these red stripes that we originally did, except it's going to be a little different because we're going to be lining different portions. They're not going up and down the way the stripes are, they're going across. So I'm going to highlight these stars. When you highlight multiple objects, you'll see these align tools in the control palette, and the one I'm going to use, I'm actually going to align. And again, remember, if you want to align them, we're going to align these stars up and down, so they're all straight going across. So we want to use the one that says, the one right here that says vertical align center, and just look for that little bar. And again, these things all look the same, and they're very hard to pick out which one to use. So we're going to start. The first groups are the align, so I'm going to align the vertical align center, which if you look for that little bar that it's showing there, it'll align things along that line. So I'm going to select that and click it, and it aligns them up and down. And then the next thing I'm going to do is vertically, or not vertically, but I'm going to distribute the space between them. So I'm going to go over here to my distribute, and it's called horizontal distribute center. So it's taking the centers and horizontally distributing them across the length that they're at right now. So I'm going to click this, and it'll add even space. And again, while they're still selected, I'm going to group them and make this row of stars, row of 6 stars, act as one object. So I'll use object, group, and what happens when you group, if you click off, you could click on again and it'll select all 6 stars. And then they kind of move as a unit and they act as a unit. If you need to edit parts of these, you can double click and it'll take you in this special group editing area where you could go and click on one star. That prevents you, or it eliminates the need to ungroup to do editing to individual stars. If you just double click anywhere in this area, it'll bring you back to where you were. So there's my group. Another way to select one star, which we're actually going to do, is over here. One of our selection tools is a direct selection tool. If you hold down on that, underneath is the group selection tool, which has a little plus on it. That allows you to actually just click on one object within a group. And that's existed for a long time before this whole group editing area. So we will need to do that. But I'm going to go back to my selection tool and select this whole row, and I'm going to make multiple copies just by dragging. So I mentioned I need 9 rows. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then my last one I'm going to move down closer to the bottom so it has kind of an even margin like the top one. So again, all these rows, kind of like the stripes, will act as their own unit. So I'm going to line these up and down and, well, distribute them up and down and also align them so their sides are even. But before I do that, I have extra stars. I have 54 stars. And I'm going to use my group selection tool, the white arrow with the plus sign, and just eliminate, and I'm hitting delete on my keyboard, just selecting one, each star and deleting. So now I'm down to 50 stars. And I have rows of 6 alternating and then rows of 5 alternating. And because these are grouped, it'll be very easy to align these and distribute them. And now I have my blue box and stripes layers locked, so I can highlight right through this, all of these stars, and not worry about accidentally selecting the blue rectangle or the red stripes. Now with these selected, I want to align these on center so that they all line up, and I'll do that first. So horizontal align center. And again, I'm looking at that line because I do want them to align this way, so that's why I'm looking for that vertical line. Even if the terminology is confusing, I'm looking at that vertical line, and that aligns them all on center, which I can see it looks more like stars would look on a flag, except they're not distributed correctly. All the rows aren't distributed yet. So I want to distribute those, and I want to go over here to the distribute area, vertical distribute center, which should distribute these just like I did with the stripes. So I'm going to, and I'm using the bars. I'm looking at that bar going across because I want to distribute them across that bar. So here's my vertical distribute center. I'll click on that, and that separates them so they're all even. And then this whole group, it's not actually a group, but they're still all selected. I could kind of use my arrow key and nudge it in place a little bit. And that's it. So it was making a star by holding Shift and Option, making it a small size, 0.28, duplicating it by Option dragging so that I had 6 stars going across. I then grouped all those stars. I made duplicates so I had 9 rows of those 6 stars. I used this tool over here, the group selection tool, to get rid of the extra stars on alternating rows so that I ended up with 50 total. And then I used my align and distribute tools in my control palette when I select multiple objects. These tools up here, which it takes some practice getting used to because they're hard to decipher which is which. Sometimes you just have to click a button and see what happens, and then you'll get the hang of it. But right now everything's kind of lined up. I'll zoom out so I see my flag, and I see my stars look pretty good. They're all aligned nicely, and that's how I did my stars. So that's the end of part 2.